Welcome to Piecing It All Together. I'm Bo Sanders.
I'm Randy Woodley.
And, people have just got done listening, actually, to episode 44, which was you down at the Bartimaeus Institute. And so they are very aware. It's very fresh on their mind, you talking about worldview. And we're going to bring that up a little today because of your travels and what you've been speaking on. But people are also going to be listening to the Q&A from that Bartimaeus Institute with Robert Tubles.
Right.
And any thoughts on, as you get some distance from that event down in Santa Barbara, any thoughts about what people have just listened to?
Well, I think the one caveat that I would like to make is that it was put on by the BKI, Bartimaeus Institute, and was called, I think, what was it? Indigenous Land, Law, and Language.
Yeah.
And so there were almost all, not all, but almost all indigenous speakers. But even under the best circumstances, and the most well-meaning, summits, conferences, whatever you want to call them, our style just does not fit in that conferencey style. It's just not us. And I'll tell you why I think it is. I think the conference style is built upon a Western worldview, of course, and people try to offset this. And this was, they did that down there too. And and I've been to two other ones since, and we can talk about, but they all try to do stuff to make them more heart and humanizing and all that sort of stuff. But they end up being an exchange of knowledge, right? Like, so the speaker dumps knowledge, and then we have 15 minutes of, verbal intercourse. But that's not how indigenous ways are. We don't, now the exchange of knowledge is not how we grow. It's through relationship and making those things practical and talking about ways and the process of everybody being a part of that conversation, right?
Yeah.
So, as someone recently said, the path is the work, right?
Yeah.
So we all do it together, and we come up with something better. So that's one of the many reasons that we want to do our Indigenous Learning Center down in New Mexico, so that we can, invite people, same types of peoples and everything else, but to come down and to experience it in a more indigenous learning style. Because I've always said, and you know this to be true, that pedagogy is at least as important as content, if not more important.
Man, I'm so glad you brought this up. I have so many thoughts rushing into my head right now. Two things just real quick though. I'm at a conference center, and this guy is just started vacuuming. So if that gets too loud in the background, tell me and I'll move.
I think it's ambient.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I also want to mention that you just crossed the $50,000 mark for the fundraiser to move. And so I wanted to say congratulations and thank everybody for chipping in and having the vision to get Elahe relocated.
Yeah, and especially thanks to, of course, all the people who are giving. There's a lot of people I just have no idea who they are giving, because I would say half of the gifts say anonymous, which is very laudatory, and I admire that. And but it kind of leaves me in the dark, because I'm like, who's giving?
My goodness.
But Erna Kim Hackett and Joshua Grace, two of my former students, are doing an incredible job of making this thing happen. I think it's only like 35, 40 days old, and they've got like 53,000 now or something. I haven't looked lately, but that's what I'm hearing.
Randy, that's so exciting. You know what's weird about the anonymous gift? I mean, it's great that people are doing that, but maybe is it just anonymous to you? Because don't they need to register if they're going to get the tax deductible benefit of that?
Well, the Erna, who has the site, is I guess has the editorial privileges or whatever. It's since they're the ones doing it, I only have the same access as everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going great, and we need to, since we're talking about it, if somebody wants to give, it's GoFundMe.com/Resurrect Elahe, ELOATH.
And that is different than some other GoFundMes because of the status of the tax deductible, so that people can actually, it would help them out on their taxes next year.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, back to conferencing. So you said that the conference, just the style, doesn't fit what you do. And, one of the reasons I think about this all the time is that, like for me at my church, we have, we literally, I cut out the stage. I took away the platform. So we meet on a flat surface, and we meet in the round, and it's conversational community. And, but when I get to visit other churches, I'm always amazed at this thing of sitting, looking at the back of people's heads in straight rows. Then there's an elevated platform, and there's one person usually in the spotlight, and they have the microphone, or a handful of people, and it feels very much like a conference to me.
Yeah.
And
or it feels like there's a priest on the altar about to sacrifice a baby or something.
Well, I don't think, I've never thought that, but
that's what it's modeled after, by the way.
Yes, that part is true. But when I go to conferences, I'm always amazed at how rigid they are in their form and how much creativity they lack. Because, like, for instance, when I go to the American Academy of Religion or some theological whatever, and so they introduce the person, this person gets up, they read a paper usually that they have spent lots of time writing, snore fest, to everyone sitting there, who, by the way, doesn't have a copy of that report, so they're just listening. And then they might have somebody who responds to the paper, or you may get a Q&R, and then that's it. And all of that work went in for this one moment that is so temporary. There's no lasting impact out of it. And I just think we have to be able to do better than this. And so whether it's being in dialogue and conversation or facilitating a learning experience, but oh my goodness, people love both the conference format and that thing about being on stage and talking into a microphone. And it's like really important who gets elevated to that position. It's a real, like, people value it. And here's the thing I wanted to say is I think it's because the medium is the message. So when you talk about, that's McLuhan, but when you talk about the learning style, the pedagogy, the theory of education is as important as the content, I think it's because, like, when I'm in a room with you and the way that you set it up and facilitate people interacting, that in itself is content.
That's right. Absolutely. So and then the only thing that you said I disagree with is when you said that and no one else has the paper. So I have trained myself to be an oral learner or auditory learner, if you will.
Yeah.
And I don't read papers. I don't even read the Bible.
You just listen to it?
Yeah. Mostly I don't listen to it anymore because I know all the stories. Right. So the whole point's about the stories.
Yeah.
And so what, like today they asked me to do a Bible study, and so I did a Bible study in Luke 15, and I had a room full of people, probably like 25 people, and we sat around. I said, put away all your notebooks, put away your phones, put away everything. This is a bare naked auditory experience that we're going to do as a Bible study. I said, you all know the story. There's no point in having to look and read it. And so I said, okay, what are the first two verses? What's the context? And they went on. Everybody knows those three parables, which are really one parable, which is the point. But the whole idea was we're going to do this together, and we're going to bring out stuff, by listening to each other that we've never experienced before. And sure enough, it happened. It was wonderful.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so like two things about that. I have a friend who's she's a very impressive academic, and she is making her way up the the ranks through the institution, and she keeps getting promoted, and it's wonderful, you know. I'm very excited for her. But I mean, she will spend 20 or 30 hours writing a paper to present at a conference. And, you know, like I said, no one else has a copy of that. And then she reads it. Let's say that takes 20, 25 minutes. But here's the thing. I'm an audio connoisseur, right? I mean, this is why I podcast. And I just think, you know, when I was on Homebrew, that's one of the things that we really brought to the table with innovation, is that we recorded our sessions, right? We would host these events at American Academy of Religion, or these live events that we would do at a pub, and we would record them so that they lived on in an archive, and that people could access them, you know, whenever they wanted, and it took on a life of its own. So that audio lived on the interwebs in a way that people could access it at distance. And I love that. So it's painful to me when I go to a conference and somebody has worked so hard on a paper, like 30 hours, Randy, of work to read a 15 or 20 minute thing. And then when that's over, no one who wasn't there, and no one will ever be able to hear it again. I mean, just the sheer proportion of how much work went into that, and how many people brought their physical selves to listen to it, and then it's over like that, and it never impacts outside that room. It's ridiculous.
Two things. One is they can use it and do a chapter in a book or a magazine article. But
yeah,
I mean, that's what I've done.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
To do this, as my friend and Richard Twist and I used to say, hegemonic bullshit. So the other thing is, like, you know, here we go. Okay, so Christianity is, you know, it's a big religion, right? It's a big deal, but it is just like a part of the population, and it's waning. And people who do theology, that's even a smaller part. People who do scholarly theology, and you're getting down to, and pretty soon it's just a very small group of people who really care about this. But for those people, it's important.
Yes, I'm just saying that the form needs to be updated and innovated.
Yeah, but
we can do better than this.
That's and the reason you know why it's not, right? Because if you do it the way I'm saying, then no one can be in control of it.
Yeah, I know. Randy, it is so much about control.
Yeah.
And control, I'm just finding control is the hand up the backside of the puppet of nearly everything.
Yeah.
I was talking with a friend of mine who's becoming more conservative, and was trying to stick up for orthodoxy. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to say, you know, let's be honest, orthodoxy it's a fabrication, right? It's a social imaginary.
Absolutely. Now,
right?
Explain what you mean by that for people, though.
Well, so social imaginary is like Oregon is a social imaginary. There are actually no lines that say this is Oregon. The land doesn't know the difference between Oregon and Idaho, right? So the concept of Oregon, but it's as humans socially participate in that imagined reality that it takes on concrete consequences. Yeah. So like the law is a social imaginary, and the black vote is a social imaginary.
Or the Canadian-U.S. border.
Yes.
Just draws a line on a map and says,
yeah.
"Oh, that's a border."
It's not that they're not real, or they're like, you know, it's just they only exist in that we participate in them.
Yeah. Or it's like the Mexican United States, which is a social imaginary.
Yeah.
So you know, it is important to. Oh, you got something you want to say?
Well, I was going to say the reason I brought up the social imaginary is I was saying orthodoxy is just a social imaginary, and he tried to stick up for it by saying, I mean, he didn't use the word control, but it was basically, if you don't go with apostolic succession going all the way back to the days of Jesus in the Bible, then people just get to make up their religion as they go. And
he's making that up.
I know, it's amazing.
I mean, he's making that up. It's like that whole construction is a social imaginary. So, I mean, it's not the way he says. It didn't happen that way. The world doesn't work in straight lines and tight borders. The world is blurry. History is all kinds of, ways, sideways, upside down, underground, above ground, and that's how life works. And the problem with the West is that the West is always trying to define those things that are undefinable, and they can't be comfortable until they do. Like the Creator, for example. I love the great mystery, right? Because the great mystery means like, okay, if I could understand the great mystery, then I would be the great mystery. Right? But we can all help each other. I've come to the place where when people ask me theological questions, what I ask them is, tell me what in your life this is either preventing you from doing or that will cause you to do. And then let's talk about it. And if you can't answer that question, then it's abstract. And at least let's admit, hey, we're playing a game here where this isn't real.
That's fantastic. If it does not translate into practice and praxis, reflective practice, then it's just theory, right? That's a great distinction.
Almost all theology is based on theory, if not all theology.
Well, and it is intoxicating to think that you believe the right things. That really is a very seductive, attractive.
Yeah, that's what's caused most of the genocides around the world.
It's fun when you think you're right.
Yeah.
There's like an endorphin or some chemical in your body that gets released when you think you're right.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Back to 45 again, huh?
By the way, sometimes when I am asked to speak at something, I will start by saying, I just want you to know there's a high probability I'm going to be wrong about this.
Yeah.
Not everybody can be right. Somebody's got to be wrong. And I'm just putting forward, I'm probably wrong. And then sometimes I have people who are like, then why are you talking? Why did we give you the microphone?
Yeah.
No one likes that.
Give me the mic. I'm not wrong.